Hello, my name is Jacob Foss, and today I will be taking a deep look at 2 pages from Indy Stevenson's graphic novel, Nimona. Before we talk about Nimona, let's first talk about what the heck a graphic novel is. A graphic novel is a type of book that contains not only text, but also illustrations. In my opinion, these illustrations can make graphic novels more engaging than a traditional book because of the visual stimulation you get in addition to reading text. Now, back to Nimona. Nimona takes place in a fantasy world comprised of a blend of medieval and futuristic influences. This world is ruled by the Institution, which is essentially an organization that puts people into societal roles. The Institution has forced the main character, Ballister Blackheart, into the role of villain, which he accepts. The truth about Blackheart is that he isn't a villain. It is just what the Institution has forced him to become. All his evil schemes are attempts to overturn the Institution so that he can gain control of his life and break away from the role of villain. Every plan Blackheart has is stomped out by his longtime nemesis and hero of the Institution, Goldenloin. That is, until the shapeshifter Nimona enters Blackheart's life. Nimona gives Blackheart the strength he needs to break away from the role the Institution has slotted for him. During one of Blackheart's and Nimona's schemes, Nimona steals a file of secret plans from the Institution, and upon closer examination of them, Blackheart discovers the Institution is using a highly dangerous thing called jade root. Jade root is a poisonous plant the Institution has banned for a long time. The Institution is growing high quantities of it, which Blackheart fears will put the kingdom's crop at risk of contamination. To notify the public of this, Nimona shapeshifts into a news reporter and appears on the news. The Institution discredits the accusation raised against them, so Blackheart puts a non-lethal poison in some of the kingdom's food supply to cause people to take the reports about institutional jade root usage seriously. Now that you understand some background knowledge, I will be closely analyzing a section from Nimona. On pages 164 to 165, there is a scene where Nimona mentions to Blackheart that 2 people have died from the virus he created. When Nimona brings this to his attention, he becomes outraged and stands up from his chair saying, "That's impossible. I engineered it to be non-lethal." After saying that, he brings the cure to the people facing the disease he created. When he tells Nimona he is going to distribute a cure, she argues that the illness is great for their diabolical plan and that they are in a phenomenal position to deal a fatal blow to the Institution. Blackheart doesn't care that they could achieve their goal. Through the color change of the background, you can tell he is storming out of the room, and as he does this, he says to her, "No one else is going to die. I'm no more fit to rule than the Institution is. I'm a liar and a murderer, and I'm done with this." These 2 pages are dark colors, which highlights the serious tone of the conversation occurring between Blackheart and Nimona. This scene is an integral piece of the Nimona story because it showcases the theme of how society tries to put people in boxes they don't necessarily belong to. The first thing highlighted is Blackheart's good intentions. In this scene, Nimona is the voice of the villain. Nimona saying that a couple people dying is fine because they're near their goal is something I would imagine a villain to say. On the other hand, Blackheart's response of caring for every human life no matter the cost sounds like the thought process of a person working for good. Blackheart is clearly not evil. He never meant to kill anyone and only wants to overturn the Institution because it has forced him into becoming a villain, which he never should have been. A theme of Nimona is that people don't belong in the boxes they're so often forced into. The Institution is just a representation of how real-life societal norms control what people are allowed to be. Blackheart is a virtuous character that fights for what he thinks is right, while the Institution grows outlawed jade root. Which of these sounds more like villain behavior? Clearly the growing of a dangerous illegal substance that endangers the kingdom. The only reason the Institution is seen as a force of good is because it is all anyone has known. This is like the real world. Society has many flaws and at times is just completely wrong, but most people accept it simply because it is what they're used to. Think of women's suffrage. Women weren't allowed to vote in America until 1920, and they may have never gained even that right if women like Susan B. Anthony didn't rise against the sexist system so many others had accepted. I'm sure many people labeled her as evil, just like how the Institution labeled Blackheart a villain when he was fighting for positive change. Nimona is a book that presents the way society works through a fantasy world. The institution forcing Blackheart into the role of a villain is no different than people placing each other in social boxes. This scene showing Blackheart's stand for good is essential to the message behind the book, which is that society is often wrong. People are unique, and they shouldn't be forced into boxes. Just like how Blackheart is a good person mislabeled as a villain, there are people in the real world mislabeled constantly. Thank you for listening, and always remember that no matter what, you choose who you want to be.